Okay. It says I hope I am. I hope everybody's going to have a nice Sunday morning. I'm I'm back here at the house uh, because it's nice and toasty, as I said in my video there. A lot of advantages to doing it right here. For one, I don't have to worry about going up to the shop and putting the heater on and doing a lot of other things. And plus, I don't want to take a risk of getting sicker. I've been a little bit of congestion and a few other things. I've had my, uh, what is it? One of the vaccinations this week. My wife, I'm going to have the pneumonia vaccination and it's the flu type thing that's going around vaccination. I've had that. Hey, Jamie. Hey, Zach. Glad to see you're still up and at it here. Uh, how is it down under? You're probably getting the good weather now, whereas we're into the dead of winter right now. Although winter's not been too bad, uh, other than some places out in Iowa, and places are getting the blizzards and stuff. Yeah, well, that's great. I'm glad you caught the live, and I'm here at my house. Uh, a lot of people I got you can see my pond in my backyard back here. Uh, but this is the view from my house. Uh, it's good, comfortable, nice den that we have here that my wife helped design this when we were making the addition to our house and everything about, oh gosh, probably 16, 17 years ago now. Well, no longer than that. My grandson is 18, so probably 18 or 20 years now. It's getting on up there. And we built this addition. We basically doubled the size of our house about 20 years ago. And this is the part that we like. We got the den, and like I said, you can see our pond back here. And my wife wanted some large windows in this den, and it's nice. It's really nice. We like it. It's got a good view of the entire farm. You can see our pasture over there in the background. You've never heard of the Ruby Ridge until yesterday, huh? Yeah, 40 degrees Celsius there. Yeah, yeah. Well, I hope the view's good for you, Zach. Now, coming from my house, I don't have the strongest signal that I do like I do at the shop, but it's the last couple of times it's worked out pretty good. So hopefully the signal's good. The Wi-Fi signal is coming in pretty good. I don't know, uh, but it is what it is. If it gets a little bit pixelated or whatever, I apologize in advance. But hopefully I can get a good stable signal. We don't have a lot of wind or bad weather down here right now, so since it's wireless, I hope it comes through good. Signal is good, is it, Jamie? Okay, great, great. Well, that's what I was hoping for. Uh, Signal's been pretty good. I've been streaming movies, and I even streamed that football game on Peacock last night. I don't know if anybody else did. I enjoyed it. It was a great game, a real good game. I would have hated to have been at Kansas City last night. That was a whew, frozen field for sure. And I would have hated to have to played on that football field and with -7 degree temperature. Uh, I, I I wouldn't like that. Hey, okay, it's going good for you too, is it, Zach? Well, maybe I've got it worldwide then. I got it. Jamie, are you in Florida or are you back up north? I thought I was going to have to call you, Jamie, this week. We had about 4 inches of rain first of this week, And gosh, my basement, Jim's basement, several basements got flooded. I mean, leaked. Now, well, not mine didn't get flooded. I think Jim's was worse. Jim's on a real. He thinks whoever built his house built it on some springs, and when the I guess the hydraulic pressure bigger or larger with heavy rains, it makes his basement leak. I said, well, we may have to get Jamie down here and we'll see if he can help you on that, Jim, because I said that's Jamie's specialty, and he remembers meeting. See, I believe you got to meet Jim, didn't you, when you were down here? Woo, -3. Good gracious, Chris, don't. Oh man, well you're right out there where that ball game was. Like I said, I watched that ball game from Kansas City, and it was -7 on that. Okay, yeah, I thought you met Jim. Yeah, yeah, Jim. Jim's having like I think, like you said, it would be. I guess it would be considered hydraulic pressure from a spring or whatever his ground, the groundwater problem he's got. And his house was built back in, I want to say the 70s or early 80s. I'm thinking the 70s when that house was built. So we all had the same building codes. He did and I did. Proof as good as we should have, probably. So we may have to get up with you one day and have you help us with both our basements. So it's one of those situations that all of us on the internet, we all got different skills, and we had to help each other out every once in a while. Jamie being the one who been able to fix all these buildings that leak all over the United States and everything. And I was telling Jim, I said, yeah, he did the Mint Museum in Charlotte and several other big buildings in Charlotte. And then he does them all over in Florida and wherever. So, so Jamie has a pretty good business of keeping us dry. But that's what happens. But Chris, how's the weather other than just extremely cold? I know that, like I said, I watched that ball game last night from Kansas City. And how far are you from Kansas City? You're on the other side of the state, aren't you? Or toward the middle of the state? I don't know. I don't know the way that on Jim's, the way his is I think it's a half basement type thing. I don't know exactly. I don't know if you could do anything like that or not. I did something like that at my son's house. Now he built a house and he built right near some big springs, and actually his backyard we had to French drain it, and we got one spot it's still coming back. We actually put a pond in his backyard at one time, but his wife was just wanted that pond gone when they got married. So we had a nice pond that was beautiful because the springs fed that pond. The water was clear as everything, and we had to get rid of it because they wanted to have children, and of course they did. So I ended up covering it back up and putting a French drain in there and putting a lot of rock, and I've got it going out to the creek and everything. But now on further back in his yard, we got another spot that's kind of a low spot, and I'm gonna have to cut another French drain or something back there and that sort of stuff. Yeah, you're in Western Kansas. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, yeah, I've seen older houses like that too, and uh, what I'm trying to accomplish. Well, My house, I don't think of it as an older house, but it is. I've had my house almost 50 years, I guess. My house was built in the mid 70s. And so here we are in the 20s now. So yeah, my house is right at 50 years old. And that surprises me in a way, uh, how time has slipped by. And, it's, I got a 50-year-old house, but the addition that I've done is only about right at 18, 20 years old. But even that kind of surprises me too, that time has flown by so fast that my addition is like that. Yeah. But I'm hoping, well, we had a little bit of bad weather Friday, I believe, but Monday, like I said, last Monday, we had torrential rains. We had about 4.5 to 5 inches of rain that came through in one day's time. And our pond actually, the overflow, uh, I got to go down and check it. The overflow of our pond was just, it was, I've never seen it get that bad. And, and then the pond water itself had backed up. We got a driveway around the cabin over here. I'm pointing at it, but across the way we've got where my mother-in-law used to live, and that where that house is, the water had gotten up past the grass level of the road. We have a driveway in front. What's a grass driveway? It's not a driveway, but you can actually drive on it. And the water got all the way up above that. So the pond level was probably uh, a foot higher than it usually is because of all that rain. It's something. Oh, you're replumbing a 1925 house. Oh gosh, yeah. That's something. If your house, so your house is 100 years old, then wow, yeah. And that's some more undertaking there. 1925, my granddad would be like my granddad's house. Uh, Plumbing was non-existent in Grandpa's house. I mean, he had no indoor plumbing. They had bed chambers. They had outhouses. Uh, they finally did get uh, an indoor sink. I remember when they got that, they got an indoor sink, but they had an outside well that you had to go out there and get your well water and then bring it into the sink. And they finally got indoor plumbing. Uh, I think before Grandpa died, they got indoor plumbing so you could uh, use the sink, and that was it. They didn't have a shower or a bathtub. Well, they had a bathtub, but uh, you had to bring your own water. It was one of those sort of situations. But that's the way it was. And that was probably, I think Grandpa passed away in 57. Yeah. And that's the way it was when he was growing up, and when I remember Grandpa's house. Oh, that's a customer house that you're doing. Oh, okay. Well, I don't know if I lost any fish downstream or not. Uh, I if they did, they did. I got a whole pond full, so I wasn't down there to check and see if I lost fish, but I would imagine there was some casualty. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's sort of funny because this morning I was actually watching a documentary about the Mennonites, and the Mennonites that a lot of the families had moved to Belize in Central America, and some of those were disheartened with the lack of land that they were because of their community over the past 30 or 40 years has gotten so large that they didn't have enough land, so they were moving on to another community in Peru and was going to go out in the Amazon. And if anybody could survive, it would be the Mennonites, because these people, you know, like the Amish, they all group together in a community service type thing and build everything together. So they learn, and they learn how to do with their hands and do agriculture and do carpentry and do welding and blacksmith and everything at an early age. Hey, Joy, I saw you were celebrating your daughter's birthday, and yours was a couple weeks ago too, I saw. So I guess happy birthday to your family, since I didn't say anything about it last time. Hopefully your daughter had a good time with her birthday. Yeah. Yeah, we like where we're at down here. Um, you know, we enjoy the view that we have, and it gets to be a real pretty view in the springtime. Right now, it's with all the leaves off the tree and everything brown. It's not as pretty of a scenery, but we really like it down here. You got another one Wednesday. Good gracious. You got them all grouped together, hadn't you, Joey? Yeah. Well, that's great. That's great. Yeah, if I make my next one, it's going to be about 6 months out. So I'm about halfway in between right now. I'll have one well, that's when our birthdays start, hot and heavy for our family. My son, my grandson, uh, myself, my brother, my dad's was all of us were in June. We got a lot of cousins and everything else. We used to have a June birthday party get together. We had so many cousins and everything that had birthdays in June. Yeah. Yeah, the big city of Cherryville. Yeah, we had a city council meeting the other night where we got a lot of people that are trying to move into our city of Cherryville. We got a lot of developers that are wanting to spring up. I hope they can slow some of this down, because when you start adding 400 and 500 houses at a time, I think it's too much, and that's what they're planning. I mean, they're talking. There's two different housing developments that already are like 400 houses apiece, and then now we have a third one that wants to come into the area. They want to make more of a cluster home, even the density even closer together, and they're trying to squeeze about 400 homes into that. Thank goodness the planning board rejected it, and I think the city council is going to also take their recommendation to reject that at this point. And we just don't have the infrastructure in our small town to take care of all of this at one time. I mean, it's good to have growth, but have it in a good way. Oh, I know it, and that's the problem, Jamie. Is we're going to have to look at the infrastructure of our small town, what we can and can't do, and to be able to supply that much water and sewage and garbage pickup, and then maintain all the streets and everything. That's an undertaking. That's an undertaking for sure. The one that's right across from my Napa store, now that's one one that's supposed to be going in the next year or two. That's they've made them cut down in size. They had initially wanted to put, because it's close to 1,000 acres, I think, or 500 acres. Maybe it's 500 acres, and they were wanting to put about 600 homes, and then they were going to make them put a lot of community areas and stuff like that, and walkways and playgrounds and even some. They're going to put some of their own stores and businesses type things in that. So if it's done nice, I think it's okay. Yeah, that's the other thing is about $26,000 per student. Uh, it costs to send a kid to school. I mean, it's not like it was in the old days where it was minuscule in cost. Nowadays, it's very costly for these cities and counties per student. So as they grow, the taxation on it and everything has to go up tremendous. So you're running your tax base up a whole lot especially on a community like Cherryville, which is more residential and older people like myself that live here. That my children are grown. I mean, I'm paying taxes on somebody else's children. My children have grown up. Their children have grown up. They're already through the school system, and now we're still here, and we're going to be taking the burden on of all these future uh, schools and everything that are going to have to be built for all the influx of new people coming in. So it's something to think about. That I purchased. Wait a minute, you talking about me, Joey? Yeah, I purchased this farm out here. All this, I've got 75 acres. I'm on the back side, and of course, I've lived on this farm for the past 50 years. We basically just a couple of years ago, after my mother-in-law passed away, we we bought it from my my wife's sisters and brother. There were five of them, so we had five people we had to buy out, and so we had to purchase all the land, and we have the house that my mother-in-law used to live in, and about 75 acres. Of course, now, well, I didn't have to purchase 75. I already owned uh, about 15 to 20 acres that I'd already purchased in years past, where I have some of my buildings. So, but totally, I have about 75 acres down here, which is nice for us. We like that. Yeah, that's one thing you're talking about consumers as opposed to just people that are producing things. That is true. I think the nation as a whole, we have a consumer nation. We don't have an industrial base like we used to. We produce a few things, but the percentage of what Americans produce as opposed to what they consume, I think it's probably 70-30 or 60-40. I would say we only produce 30 or 40% of what we actually consume as a nation. So that seems to be the problem with our nation, is that we are too much a consumer nation and we're not a productive nation. and we need to bring industry back into this world, in this part of the world, to be a producer. Now it's good to see stuff like Tesla and some of these other companies come in and actually produce here in America, and then even the other automakers like Toyota and Mitsubishi and uh, Volkswagen and BMW and all these others that are nationwide, I mean worldwide, that they've actually decided to start building here in the United States, and that's a more productive way of doing business. Now, of course, those are foreign entities, and you say, well, where does the money go after that? I guess the corporate money would go back to their home country, whereas BMW be in Germany, and then uh, Volkswagen Germany, and Mitsubishi and Toyota and uh, Datsun and all those go back to Japan and some Korea, and that's what we're getting into with even with tractors. Uh, you think about the amount of tractors that are being built in the world. A very small percentage of the tractors, everything from the small tractors to the huge industrial tractors like John Deere and Massey Ferguson and all those have gotten to be worldwide and not so much built in America. I mean, John Deere is an American company, and Case and Massey Ferguson used to be, but all these have gotten sold off to other entities and everything worldwide now, that I don't know how much is actually being produced in the US anymore. I know farm tractors. I mean, I bought a Coyote and it's Korean made. Uh, I don't know which story you're talking about, Chris, unless you're talking about there's a gentleman that's moved into our area he's an investment banker, and he's done real well by buying up some land. That may have been the one you're talking about, and he's doing real well helping our town. Uh, his name's Patrick O'Leary, and he's a well-known businessman in this area now uh, because of all of his land purchases and everything like that. That may be who I was talking about. I don't know, but he's been probably the one big mover and shaker in this area as far as buying land and developing land and doing things like that. Yeah, I think John Deere has tractors being built all over. I think, like I said, Germany, and I know that what they got, what a big tractor called, what is it, a Deutz or something like that, that's big in Germany, and then Volvo, of course, makes big tractors and a lot of different big divisions over in Germany and the European countries. Oh, okay. I'm not sure, Chris. I'd have to. That doesn't ring a bell the way you're putting it together there. I mean, I talk a lot, so I'd have to think about. I mean, I know some older gentlemen that are frugal and save their money and a few things like that, but um, I can't think of exactly which story you're talking about. What I was talking about. Like I said, we've had some. We got the one guy that has done a lot of work in this area. That's like I said, he's an investment banker, and he's moved into town. Well, I mean, he actually hadn't moved in. He's got a company that he's developed in town that he's bought up a lot of older houses remodeled them. He's bought up a couple of huge farms and developed that and made it larger, real nice farms. That he bought up one horse farm and then turned it back into a cattle farm, and that's about 2,000 acres. And at the same token, he's bought a lot of buildings in downtown Cherryville, and he has remodeled those and really made our little town look really nice. A 1939 Ford beer barrel truck. Huh. Now my dad had a 1937 Chevrolet pickup truck that he bought at auction one time. I loved it. And I think some of you may have heard the story. My dad bought it, and we bought it, and it had a bad timing gear in it. And my brother and I, we rode behind Dad. We bought it at an auction, and Dad, of course, illegally, he shouldn't have done what he did, but we did it. We went to back roads. He just hooked a chain to his pickup truck and pulled us in this other pickup truck at 37 all the way home. So me and my brother D, we were thrilled to be able to ride in it. So D got to drive it. He was like 14 probably. I was like 12. And we rode in that 37 pickup all through the back country, getting back to where we live and taking dirt roads and old roads and everything else. So we wouldn't get caught by the police by towing one. And, but we did that years ago. And then my dad fixed the 37, which I loved. I think 37 Chevy and Ford's beautiful style. And I wanted to get it when I turned 16 and fix it up myself. But my dad got disgusted with it because the timing chain broke in it again. And he told my mother one day, he said, if I could get $150 out of that truck, I'd sell it. Well, lo and behold, the guy that owned the Chevrolet dealership in Lincoln, either him or his son or somebody, saw the pickup truck out at our house. And he stopped and asked my mother, said, would y'all be interested in selling that truck? And she said, yeah, my husband said if he'd get $150 out of it, he'd sell it. Well, next thing you know, that truck's gone. And when my dad came home that afternoon from work, she told me, she said, well, I did good. I sold your truck for you. He said, what truck? He said, you're 37. And all of us boys were sick because all four of us boys, well, three older guys, older boys, we all thought we had a chance of getting that truck and fixing it up someday as a hot rod, but not to be. But years later, I've got a 31. So I've got that myself. So I know what you're talking about with the 39. A 39, I like a 37. A 39, I like pretty good. A 39 and 40. After that, I don't particularly like the 46 or 40, the 42 to 46, which is about the same. Those war era trucks I don't like as good. I don't think they were as pretty as the 30s. The trucks in the 30s were a lot prettier, in my opinion, than the ones in the 40s. The 40s trucks, I don't know if it was because of the military, the way everything was done military wise or whatever. I just think those trucks are too industrial, too military looking. And the 30s, the 30 model trucks were more stylish. And then finally they got back in the 50s, they got back into a little more style again. But the 40-ish trucks, I've never been a big fan of, if y'all know what I'm talking about. It just, something about, I've seen some nice ones made up. And if I had a chance of buying one, I probably would. But if I had my preference, the 30s is probably the prettiest trucks as far as style. I mean, the elongated long fenders and then the nice big headlights and everything out front, just the same as I've got with my 31 coupe. I love that style. To me, that's some of the prettiest styling on a car, in the last 100 years. I mean, I really like that era as far as style, and you can't hardly beat it. I'm trying to catch up with what everybody's saying. 37 Chevy Coupe. Now I love it. And that's like I said, that's like my 31 Coupe. I love a 37 Coupe is a pretty car. I'd love to have a 37, 36, 37. Uh, that's a real pretty vehicle in my opinion. And that's like that year. And then when you jump up into the 50s, the 55s and the 57 Chevys are real pretty too. I don't think you get any prettier car than a 57 Chevy. I mean, if I had to pick one car, a 57 Chevy Bel Air is probably one of the prettiest cars that's been built in the last 50 years. Uh, yeah, yeah. In the 30s, flathead V8s. A lot of cars. Of course, a lot of them had flathead uh, inline six or four. A lot of flathead Fords, four cylinders. I believe that's what we had in our 37 was uh, it was a inline four flathead engine. It wasn't a V engine at all. Uh, but I'm trying to think when the first flathead V8 that we had, probably in our Mercury. Dad had a 40. We had a 46 or 48 Mercury that had suicide doors on it, or it might have been a 50. But I think it had a flathead V8, and my mother made him get rid of it because of the suicide doors. Yeah, I mean those are were pretty in their way, but I think you understand what I'm. I know the 40 something models, they had the bullet headlights, and I don't know, it just looked more industrial looking to me. Uh, I wasn't. I just wasn't into that as much. But that being said, I mean, I'd take them in a heartbeat because I mean they're rare, and I love seeing all that nostalgia, those nostalgic trucks. Uh, I mean, it's just not as pretty as the 30s, I think. I think the styling in the 30s was just prettier than what they did in the 40s. And I think, like I said, I think a lot of it has to do with the war times, is because that's what it was more military looking than anything else back then. I mean, it was stylish in the 30s because times were better. We're getting over the depression, and things are doing a little bit better, and people wanted a stylish car. Oh, yours has a flathead, Zach. You got a 48 Mercury truck. Wow, that's pretty good, Scott. Yeah, has a flat trade. Yeah. Well, yeah, there's a lot of timber. That's the thing about all the older trucks and cars. There's a lot of wood in them. I mean, you think about everything being metal now, metal or plastic in modern cars, but yeah, back in the day, there was more wood than you realize. I mean, they built a wood frame and put metal around it, and the or metal bodies on the wooden frames, and yeah, they weren't built to last forever. That's for sure, because of those wooden bodies and wooden frames under them. Yeah, I would imagine. I would imagine the manufacturing was different from different stages. I guess once now, did Australia have did Ford or Chevy or whatever? Did they have plants over in Australia and everything? I would think it would have been more beneficial. I know they used to have plants in England and in Germany because you could get different versions of Fords and Chevys from England and everything else. So I would imagine that I don't know. I don't know if did they have manufacturing plants from some of these companies over there, Zach? I mean, I'm not. I don't know the history of all that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I saw you some pictures you put up the other day. Yeah, yeah. Well, I know that none of the kits are cheap, Walter. I mean that's the thing about it. Anytime you go to rebuild some of these older cars and trucks, I, I've got there's a guy in Georgia, and he's called Mike's A. I believe it's Mike's A models or something. And I bought some A model stuff from him. And no, it's not cheap. You go to buy any of this stuff for antique cars. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I was thinking they had some, and of course I know that they built them in South America too, and they built them a little bit different in each country. I think they took advantage of whatever the natural resources were at the time. So I would imagine if it wasn't feasible to build it a certain way in those countries, they changed up the way they were built a little bit. Uh, I know Ford and Firestone went all over the world building like a rubber plants and everything. I mean, not plants, but factory rubber factories where they extracted the rubber for the rubber tires and everything because they saw a need of that real quick, and they went into South America and did some of that, and actually got a bad name for going in there and just basically pillaging the villages and the people and a lot of slavery and everything else, getting tires and all kind of raw products out of the jungle. Uh, I mean, there's a lot of that that went on that we didn't even know about, and in a very large scale too. I mean, you get to thinking about somebody building all these cars. What's the one thing they need? Tires, and just it wasn't just one small thing. All of a sudden you need millions more, a few hundred. Uh, you can imagine that endeavor that they had to go through to change all that. Yeah, that's what I heard, Walter. Yeah, I heard that Ford Ford and Firestone, because see Harvey Firestone and Henry Ford were related through marriage. Are they were either brother-in-law or sister-in-law, brother-in-law through that way. That they were interlinked like that too. So Firestone and Ford had had a relationship as a family and as a business partner way back in the early 1900s. Yeah. Yeah, times have changed for sure. And now you can't do anything without everybody knowing your business nowadays. I mean, you can think about these things, and you think about how people lived and they how they voted, how they manipulated politicians and greased a lot of pockets way back. You go back, and I love to watch the history of some of these older families like the Vanderbilts, the Rockefellers, the Gettys. Uh, who else was I watching the other day? Well, even Hershey for the chocolate, uh, and then uh, DuPont, the DuPont family. There's just a lot of people that had all these industrial based jobs and everything that controlled a lot of people. And then you even get into beverages and with the Coors and the what's the Budweiser family name? Wasn't Budweiser. Gosh, I can't even think who owned that. But anyway, all these different families that own that. And in my area, you got into textiles and tobacco and everything else. You got the Reynolds, the Dukes, uh, and all those people that controlled tobacco. And when you get into cloth and fabric and everything else, you had I'm trying to think of some of the big names. Anyway, there's several big names in that too. Just kind of slips my mind right now, but it's funny how all these huge industrial things sprang up in the Industrial Revolution back in the late 1800s. Yeah, excuse me, guys. I'm getting kind of where I can't talk. But times have changed. I like watching historical things. That's what I watch on YouTube a lot. I love to watch, different things that make you think and everything else. Like I said, I was watching something about the Mennonites, and it's very very intriguing how the Mennonites how they've clustered together in so many different areas and how they survive. I mean, it's just amazing. Good morning, James. Yeah, you're getting in here late, but we'll talk to you anyway. Yeah, the Bush family. Yeah, that's who got. Yeah, the Bush family had the. Yeah, I knew I was out in your area. You'd chime in quicker. Yeah, because they owned a lot of stuff out there. The stadium's being named after them. Yeah, the Bush family, and then you get into all the oil barons out there too in the Midwest. Like I said, the Gettys and uh, I'm trying to who's some of that. Well, and then the King family out there. They got in oil and got it in buying ranches and everything else up there and all kind of stuff. Ah, you're all right, James. I'm glad you're in here. It doesn't matter if you're late or not. We're not taking names or taking up a collection, so it doesn't matter and everything. Although I'm getting kind of, I'll have to give y'all an update. I went to the pulmonary doctor this week, and he's going to have me take a few more tests. I got to take a high res test, a high resolution CAT scan on my chest because we're still trying to figure out what's going on with my breathing. As you, if you guys can't, it's hard for me to breathe even right now as we talk, and I may have to take a shot of oxygen. I got little oxygen here. And that feels better. But yeah, we got to figure out what's going on with my lungs because I'm having a tough time just talking sometimes, as I'm having this morning. I don't know if you can tell it in my voice, but I'm getting where I cannot talk for an extended period of time like I'm doing right now, but it's a struggle, believe it or not. I'm getting a little bit like RFK Jr. I mean, my vocal cords, I don't think are being affected, but I'm having a hard time of just getting enough oxygen in my voice. Well, guys, now that I've spoken about that, I'm gonna probably call it a day because I've been on here about as long as my voice and my lungs will let me right now. So I'm gonna get on with that. I hope everybody has a good week, and I'll keep you updated on anything about me. Say a little prayer for me every once in a while because I am struggling with some stuff, and I appreciate it. And I'm gonna get on out of here, and I'll catch y'all guys later. Okay, see you around.